Hi everyone, it's Eileen Burns from Spiritual Marketing Club and Stress Coach Training. Now today I wanted to talk about imposter syndrome and why I believe that when someone is in their purpose, totally aligned with their purpose, that there actually is no room for imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? So some would define imposter syndrome of this place where you tend, where you tend to doubt yourself and question your abilities, your capabilities, no matter what you achieve. Other people will view imposter syndrome when you go to do, certain types of work and you just feel that you're not worthy or you're not, you maybe feel as if you're being a fraud, right? And that's one of the biggest things in the spiritual industry and the coaching industry, where people suffer different levels of what they categorize as imposter syndrome. And people use a lot of methods to move people through imposter syndrome, or they'll say that that's normal, okay? But on one level, I believe that if you are in your zone of genius, if you are totally doing what you're here to do and you're in your purpose, there's actually no room for imposter syndrome because you're in the zone, right? You're totally in the zone. Most cases of imposter syndrome that I see are actually misalignment. Because either the person is just achieving to achieve, just to achieve something, or for recognition or for status, or to feel that they're good enough. There's a complete difference with all of those things than actually being totally aligned with your soul wants to do, okay? And what your life and soul purpose is. Now, in some ways, part of your life purpose, you don't, it can be your everyday things, and your soul is something deeper, and there's aspects of that, and I'm not going to get into all that at the moment. But when someone is in their zone of genius and is really doing what they're here to do, they get up and they just do what they're here to do because it is so natural. You don't really have to second guess yourself. It just feels so natural. And one of the things I think one of the problem lies, I'm not saying all of the problem lies with imposter syndrome, is, first of all, many of us that are in the spiritual sector go down different types of training. And I definitely am someone who believes in education. And it's not that I do believe that we have lots of answers within ourselves, but I also believe it can be, we can become more open and expansive and see things from a different perspective when we work with other people and when we learn things. That's, a big important thing to me. And also when we're working with other people, when we're helping clients, it's always important that we are not being naive and that we approach our clients and help them in a safe and effective way. And if we are not used to working with certain types of clients, particularly maybe clients that have extreme health challenges or extreme mental health challenges or trauma, there is sometimes more tried and tested ways that can help clients in a more safe, effective way. And there's other ways that are not maybe as helpful and can actually be damaging. And that is, my life, unfortunately, was very much, but part of my journey led me to be, I was always a teacher in a way, and I'll explain that, but my journey was very much about teaching and my journey is very much about helping healers, coaches and therapists be more of themselves, right, and own their gifts, and to be more aligned so that they work with the right clients, they are doing what they're here to do, they're less likely to make mistakes, they're less likely to be doing things that they're not, it's not ideal for them, right? And how did I get along that path? Well, my path was a very challenging path in relation to my health, which took me a long, windy road down many healing, coaching and therapy modalities, and also meeting hundreds of doctors who didn't know what to do with me, and people that made big mistakes. And that was the reality. You know, some people feel uncomfortable with that, but it was the reality that I was in a situation, and particularly when I was younger, where you know, when you're a certain age, sometimes you get a limited awareness, and you trust people that they do have the knowledge and the expertise that they say they have, or they think they have. But what I learned was that sometimes we go along the healing journey, that sometimes as soon as even we get the certificate of a healer or whatever qualification, that just seems to make us think that then we're qualified to help people with all sorts of things. And I believe that we all have our unique skills and our gifts, and we have a path. And yes, sometimes, of course, life, we're all human, or we're all living a human experience, that's more accurate, is that it's okay to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're doing things with clients, things it's about, we all want to make sure we are, in a way, helping clients to the best of our ability, right? And we're not doing any harm. But one of the things that I realised was many people didn't even realise how much harm they'd actually caused. They were very naive. Now, part of that reason was maybe I didn't address it with them. I didn't always know how to articulate things and to explain myself, or to didn't want it also impact their confidence. You know, I am very strong rescuer in my archetype, and when the rescuer plays out, sometimes you want to rescue people rather than, you know, let them be accountable for errors that they make. And what I discovered was, along my journey, what I could see was many people were great healers and therapists and coaches, but sometimes there was this often there was a misalignment. They were maybe offering lots of things, but they couldn't see within all that what the greatest strengths were. So sometimes then they were kind of offering almost everything or anything, or felt because they had trained in certain modalities that they had to offer them, or that the way that the training school had kind of presented it, that's the way that they needed to do it. And they got lost, and it's easy to get lost. I got lost out in a way because I was looking for answers. I was seeking the truth. I went down so many different modalities, and a lot of modalities gave me greater insight, but in a lot of these modalities, I found there was big missing gaps, and some of it felt as if it wasn't the total truth, and some of it felt as if it was not always about what, it's like hard to explain, but when people were talking about the benefits, it was often we were told this big long list, but there wasn't always the evidence or the experience to back that up, right? Now, where does that relate to imposter syndrome? Well, if you are running any sort of business, right, and you don't know what your greatest strengths are, right? And I don't mean just in what you're taught, because it's not just about what you're taught. And it just because you've qualified in something, right? And you've passed something, that does not, to me, define your purpose, right? I think this is where the confusion, just because you go and you do a qualification, right, does not define that as definitely your purpose, right? And it sometimes can cause confusion. And the easiest way I can explain it is, I remember I'd done lots of courses, and one example was it kind of went off holistic. I remember my aunt kept getting on to me because I was I wasn't very physically strong. I had mobility issues. I was always exhausted. So she saw how much at one point people were making money in doing false nails. And she kept saying to me that it would be easy for me to do. Now, turned out it was quite hard for me to do, but she seemed to think because it was sitting down, but even the stamina and the muscles doing the nails and things was hard. And the first problem I had was the products being toxic. Now, I thought it would be just as simple. The college had gave me permission before I started that I could use organic nails, right? I knew organic nails were rubbish, right? But the problem was everybody else in the class was using toxic products. So it became a huge problem for me. I had to wear a mask in the class. I was very unwell. And I was not great at nails. I was absolutely awful at nails. But one thing about me is I'm a very determined person, right? And I don't give up. Right? Sometimes to my detriment. And I ended up getting, I can't remember what they call it. I should know because I sometimes give my own students, but it was a student passes with a pass with honours, all right? So I get an honours qualification from this nail course. And I can honestly say, I was absolutely rotten in nails. And I never ever understood why I got that. Now, I think they've seen how hard I worked, the determination. I was very good at knowledge. I'm someone that likes to be thorough when I learn something and understand something. So I think maybe the way I presented things, but the actual doing the nails, no, I have to say, I definitely wasn't, right? So I could have come out with that qualification and said, I never ever was a nail technician, and just decided to give up as soon as I left. I mean, I probably should have gave up earlier on, but it was a big learning curve. And then I studied Indian head massage. Now, the problem with Indian head massage was, while I was doing it, I had a frozen shoulder, and I had a lot of injury to the right side of my body. And I have a rare condition that means that this side of the body is actually slightly smaller. You wouldn't notice, but because it's a rare medical condition where you've got less muscle tissue and all sorts of things that affects the whole right side. So for me, there always can be a wee bit of a weakness down that side, and sometimes the body does things that it shouldn't really do. Well, normally it wouldn't do. Now, so what I was doing was I was putting myself in a situation where was not aligned with myself physically. I was trying to do, I loved the knowledge about Indian health because I'm very into, I was always a thirst for knowledge about herbs and Ayurveda and herbal medicine. And I went to so many naturopaths and herbal, so I would always ask what they were doing, and I would ask about it. I was fascinated by that from, over 30 years ago when I started to go down this path. So I've always been interested in that thing, but the reality was it was hard for me to do. I'm only 4'9½", so even sitting with lots of clients. So I realised quite quickly that was definitely not my genre, right? And I certainly could have the knowledge and I could use the tools for certain things, but was it my zone of genius? No, it definitely wasn't, right? Now, it's so easy when you're a coach, healer, or therapist to grab on to the tools that you've spent a lot of money on. Now, I've spent thousands on some things, and I don't look at it what it used to. I used to have this thing, if I'd spent a lot of money on something and I had to use it and I had to utilise it, and that had to be part of my purpose. And I realised that that's not the case. And it was interesting because there were some other things I spent a lot of money on, but it was just for me, and it was more for my own self-growth. But there were some things I don't know why, I just seemed to think that it had to be part of my business, and I got kind of lost. And what I realised was through the years that the biggest problem that many of us have is that we get caught up in the tools and techniques sometimes too much. And I might sound as if I'm contradicting myself, because my own work, I do believe there's, like, and what I mean my own work, I have an online training school for therapists where I teach different stress management techniques and relaxation therapy and meditation and all that. And I always do believe there's certain tools that are better for certain things, and it's always about choosing the right tool for that type of client or the issue, right? So I do believe that. But what I mean, when I'm talking about imposter syndrome, is that people can get so caught up in the technique that they lose themselves and they lose their purpose and their gifts. Now, even in my students, in my relaxation training, my stress management training, I am all about them finding their own purpose and using the tools, if are appropriate, with their purpose. That's why I give them a wide range of tools, because what I see is a healer is just not a healer, right? A coach is just not a coach. Most of these people who train as coaches or healers are actually, sometimes they're even something else, right? And sometimes it's even hard to define it. But what many of us in the spiritual industry do is we go down different things, and it's part of our journey, it's part of our evolvement. Of course it is. It's part of us exploring what is our purpose, but it's also about on that path and that journey, it takes us to different levels. And I can honestly say there's many things that I've invested in that, my goodness, yeah, that wasn't the full part of my purpose, but did it give me depth? Did it get me into the next level of my awakening? Did it get me to the next level of my work in depth? Of course it did. And it gave me, for me, in what I do, it actually gave me a lot of knowledge. Now, I don't think always knowledge is a big necessary thing for certain types of work. But for example, and the reason why I'm explaining my situation, it might explain. So because I learned a lot of knowledge, when I'm working with coaches, healers and therapists, most of what they use, I know what techniques they're using, or I'm aware of what kind of strategies and what angle they're coming from. So when you understand what someone is using, right, and you understand also what they seem to be attracted to, right, or how they view. So some coaches are very mental, right? They're very into the mindset. They're very into the mental perspectives. Other people are very soul-led, right? Spiritual-led. Some people are more body-led and are really into the physical aspect, right? And some do combine a lot of it quite well. Now, when you understand what they've went down the path and what they're using and what might be getting them stuck, it's a lot easier, right? But most of our core gifts in our business are actually the things that we do very naturally. They're not actually in a way learned. So what I mean is you didn't go to school to do it, right? Here's some of the most powerful things, right? Now, imposter syndrome obviously comes in when we start questioning ourselves. But when you are doing work that is completely your zone of genius, you do not question. And I can honestly say, when I'm in my zone of genius, I do not question anything I do, because I'm connecting at a soul level, and I feel what's coming through me comes through at a soul level, right? So that may not resonate with everyone, and that's okay, because it's not meant to resonate with everyone. It's meant to resonate with people that are either ready to hear it or aligned with that, or in some level means something to them. It's not meant for everyone. And even if people sign up for my stuff, doesn't mean that everyone that signs up for my stuff is actually my soul clients, right? So I sign up for things, and then there might be something I'm interested in, aspects of them. And then, you know, I go along a wee while and I think, no, it is not actually, this is not exactly, there's some things or whatever. So what we've got to understand is that at your core, your soul essence is there, right? And when you're in your soul essence, you can't have imposter syndrome, because it comes from such a place of ease, right? It comes from a place even in joy at times, or peace. It's you're in the zone, right? That when you're in that place, there's no question, because it's not ego-led, it's not fear-led, right? It's soul-led. So I believe when people are having imposter syndrome, they're falling into their ego, right? They're falling into their fear, but they're also misaligned at that point. So what can the misalignment be? Often the misalignment is they are either not focusing on the right niche, focusing on the right product or service, or, you know, the right client, or focusing on the right gifts that they have. They're trying to be often someone else, right? They're trying to be someone they think they need to be. And I'm not talking about the superficial personality. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about something deeper, right? And the easiest way I can explain it is, you know, even someone that's been doing healing or coaching work for 10, 20, 30 years, we can all reach points where we get misaligned, right? Because we're changing what we're doing, or things are no longer right, right? And that's because we've stepped up, or we've changed, or we're awakened more to a different perspective, right? And on those stages, right, the reason imposter syndrome is coming in is there is something about the work that you're doing is no longer aligned, or the way that you're doing it is no longer aligned. So you're still trying to hold on to the old, right? We're doing and not owning where you're at, right? Or you're at a certain stage. Now, sometimes we do get, I've seen me, I remember, I'm trying to think when was the most really big one. I think about 5 years ago, I was at this level of, it felt like uncertainty, but it felt like I had one foot like in one place, and this other foot was, I knew this was the place I was going, but it was like I hadn't fully learned and fully owned this other level, right? And I was at this position because I felt there were some parts of my business I didn't know. I was feeling as if I was being inauthentic, right? Because I was one foot in this and one foot going up, right? But I was so focused on the going up or the going down that I wasn't aligned where I was, right? I was actually having the two, right? I wasn't accepting that I was in a transition, right? And I wasn't accepting, I still had, right? So I still had the solid gifts that could be owned by the group that I still work with, and I'll explain a wee bit in a minute about that. And then I wasn't accepting in a way that I was fully, that I was owning my power into the next step, right? So there was this kind of, I suppose it's the security thing, right? So I was in my head, but what I was also was not owning the transition. Right? I wasn't owning that. I wasn't trusting my soul. I wasn't in my soul. I was getting out my body, basically, right? I was getting constantly out my body, right? Now, I'm in a situation now where well, in ways you could say I've got three basic strands to my business, but I'm moving into so that two kind of are more amalgamated, and one tends to then eventually kind of automate itself, and other people will be running part of that. But I still have my strength in that I have a solid foundation of learning that can help people at what I call a lot of grassroots levels, and therapists and healers that are at grassroots level, and helping people at grassroots level, which is the stress management stuff, right? But I also have my skills as a healer, and not just my gifts as a healer, but my life experience as a healer, and all the things and the insights that I've seen from so many different modalities and experience. That takes me into a level of confidence to be able to deal with healers that are experienced, that are up level in their business, and so they've got a certain level of awareness, certain level of awakening, certain level of skill set, right? So it's two polarities, right? But one of them was one of my most solid gifts that I had for 10, 20, 30 years. Right, so it's based on both are actually based on my strongest gifts as a teacher, right, and an empowerer. But also what is happening there is that I'm transitioning, right, and my transition, I know, will lead me as I allow my soul to take me step by step and not rush it, not try and go ego-led, and not try and kind of force things, that I will be stepping into more and more of my purpose at a different level, right? And it's about, sometimes it's baby steps, sometimes it's bigger steps, right? But imposter syndrome can often come in when the person is either trying to rush those steps, right, or why they're trying to be someone else that they think they need to be or should be, or when they're trying to fit their business into the training they've done, instead of fitting their business to their gifts. It's not just about the training. It's not about the training. And what I mean about that is, of course, there's certain training important, but what I mean is your business shouldn't be designed around the tools. Your business should not be around the training. Your business has to be designed around you and the solution that you offer, the solution that clients want, the soul clients that want to work with you, the soul clients that you are born to serve. Right? And often imposter syndrome comes in when we're not aligned with one of those things. Now, if this is something that you need help with, I do have different courses now. One of the most, it's quite a really cost-effective course that can really help you explore more of your gifts, is the Identify Your Soul's Gift course, and that has the meditation from the Greatest Gifts meditation, which is really also called Identify and Own Your Greatest Gifts now. It includes that, also includes video and a really in-depth workbook, right? And there's some bonuses, and it's about helping you take a deep dive into you and your gifts, and unlock and heal some things. And it's a meditation you complete over and over again, because it helps unlock more, it helps to reveal more. And that is why I offer this course. So the Identify Your Soul's Gift course is a great way to deep dive into more of your gifts, to start seeing more of your gifts. I have other courses that go even deeper, and some of those are the archetype course, particularly the Magic of Archetype, which is on another platform, which is on my Eileen Burns platform, and that's aimed at those of you who are coaches and healers who know it's time to really awaken up to another brand new level and to take your business and you to another level. And we explore what we call the power archetypes. Now I have to add, because I want to make this clear, you know, sometimes there's a lot of confusion and there's so many archetype testing out there, and there's many different, there's some that I would say are more suitable for branding and that aspect of the business and marketing. The power archetypes are a wee bit different for some people, the way that the assessment and the question, and that's a course that I've got, the Magic of Archetypes, and it's technically a 4-week, but it's actually now a 5-week. We're actually just going to be doing a bonus live on that course. So it was based on 2 hours a week, and basically it was deep diving into looking at different aspects of the power archetypes and, you know, helping the coaches and healers identify their main power archetypes at this point that's playing out, and how they can own more of that power, how, you know, how to explore that, and how to then start healing the lower archetypes within those power archetypes that may be showing up and may be causing sabotage. Because I believe that at our core, the more we know ourselves, right, and we know our traits and our powerful gifts, then we take our business to a really, we take it on to a far deeper level and a unique level, because what we're doing is really zoning in our zone of genius, and we're bringing our unique flavour into it. It's far harder to stand out from the crowd, you know, when you are not, you're just trying to be just a healer or just a coach. And I don't mean, it's not mean that anyone's just a healer or a coach, that's not what I mean, but you're far more than that, and you're far more unique than that. These are very, very large generic labels, and they can in many ways mean very little today, because that just, it's like a big wide box, and you're more than this big wide box. That's only one part of you. And in many ways, look at even coach is getting a very loose term. A lot of things are not even coaching. You sign up for something that's supposed to be coaching, it's not coaching. It's a very loose term. But what I mean is, you are absolutely unique, and it's so important that you start to unlock more of you. And the more you unlock more of you, there's, as I said, there's no space, there's no room for imposter syndrome. So if you're interested in this course, the Identify Your Soul's Gift course is on my spiritualmarketingclub.com, and the other ones you'll be able to get information on the eileenburns.co.uk. So have a wonderful day. Bye for now.